At UMC, access to your health care is only a call away. Dial 74-NURSE for free, instant medical advice from experienced and trusted UMC nurses. 24 hours a day. Learn more at umchealthsystem.com.
And welcome in, everyone, to RedRaiders.com. I'm Zach Long, that is Don Williams, and it is time for Don versus Twitter, where Don faces down all the fury that the Bluebird has to offer from his loyal army of Twitter followers. Don, another good list of questions as we prepare for Texas Tech versus Oklahoma. Our last two trips up there have been festive, to say the least, with shenanigans, rain delays, trouncings. Should be a very fun week to go to Norman and cover a football game.
Yeah, let's hope for no rain delays this time, just a competitive football game. It's going to be a meaningful football game, a big one, with Tech being 7-0 and Oklahoma being 6-1. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to be in the stadium until 3 a.m. again. That was enough of that from Mother Nature. We appreciate the rain, but a little inconvenient at that point in time. Don, let's tackle your list of questions because you got a bunch of them. Let's start first with Brandon Garner. At AJ Don Williams, is it too early to ask if he will enter the draft after this year? And, of course, that is in reference to the monster tight end, Jace Amaro.
Boy, the smoke on that is really building into a pretty big fire. Jace Amaro, I said at the beginning of the year, a month or so ago, when we were asked this question, I said, I think Jace will help himself if he comes back for a senior year, because I think he can get a little more consistent. He occasionally has some concentration lapses, dropping some passes. He did that. He actually dropped another one on Saturday, and I thought he could get better as a blocker, and I felt like he needed probably to play, another full, complete season since we'd seen so little of him the first 2 years. But, man, he is just so fantastic. 9 catches 5 weeks in a row. How's that for consistency? And 8 catches the week before that. And his junior season has been so good that in the last really 2 weeks he is starting to get a lot of attention nationally, a lot of speculation that he could come out, or that he will be in good position if he comes out. For his side, Jace says, he said middle of last week on Twitter, and he said after the game on Saturday that he wants to be here all 4 years. I think he's having fun, and he says that he is going to that he will be here as a senior. Kliff Kingsbury is a little more practical about it. He says, hey, if he can make the money, we're going to kick him out the door, because he needs to do, or we need to do, what is best for Jace. So now the question becomes, is he going to be a first-round draft choice? There have only been you got to go all the way back to 2006 to get the last time the last time there were 2 tight ends taken in the first round of the NFL draft. Now, one of them this coming year is a slam dunk. That's Eric Ebron from North Carolina, 6'4", 245-pound guy who scouts just absolutely love. They think he's going to be an all-pro. And then there's another guy named Austin Safarian-Jenkins, who's 6'6", 276 pounds. He has not had nearly as good a year as Ebron and Jace Amaro have. So there is speculation. There is some talk that Jace could be anywhere, depending on how he finishes the year and what he does. If he decides to come out in pre-draft workouts, he could be anywhere from, I think, mid-low first round to a third-round draft pick. But right now he's kind of in the top 3, and Ebron and him are having the 2 best seasons of those 3.
That will not be an easy decision either way when you're dealing with that much money and you're talking about your livelihood, your future, and your family. That's a lot to process in a few weeks to make a decision, Don. Mm-hmm. Don Robert Powell, a frequent flyer here on Don versus Twitter. You said next year this time we'll still be discussing the 3 quarterbacks. I think Webb or Baker leaves. Which one stays? Expand upon that.
Okay, now I will say, preface my comments by saying I disagree. I don't think any of the 3 are going to leave. If Robert's presenting me with a theoretical scenario that one of these guys leaves, who do I think it would be? I would say Baker Mayfield. For just a couple of reasons. One is because right now Davis Webb looks really good. I think Davis Webb's games the last 2 weeks have been the most impressive quarterback play that we've seen so far. And Davis, to me, he's seeing the field better right now than I think Baker did in those first 5 games. And he's a bigger guy. He has a very strong arm, and he also throws the ball with touch well. And so I kind of am starting to think he's your quarterback of the future. But again, I think it's way too early for people to start thinking that somebody's going to bail and transfer. I mean, put yourself in Baker Mayfield's shoes. I've started 5 games for this team.
Absolutely.
I've started nearly as many games as the other guy has. Why should I leave?
Right.
I'm a freshman. I've got a lot of room to grow and improve. I want to stay in the battle and win this quarterback job. So again, I don't think any of these guys leave, Webb or Mayfield or Michael Brewer.
And Mayfield's got a heck of a competitive spirit. You know, he is not done fighting for that position.
Well, and he seems to love it here too. I mean, after Davis Webb threw the touchdown pass to clinch the game on Saturday, 37-27, who was one of the guys who was slapping him on the back the hardest?
Yeah, pregame tunnel. Guess who's right beside Davis Webb coming out the tunnel? Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
As enthused as anyone else. Continuing on with the quarterback subject, Don, Jeremy Dayhow, do you believe the 2 freshman quarterbacks? Do you believe in them like Kliff Kingsbury does?
I think they both have a bright future, and I think they're both guys that Texas Tech can win with. I was doing a little comparison. Phillip Rivers played as a second semester freshman at North Carolina State. Phillip Rivers, at the same age that Davis Webb is now, the same stage of development, his freshman year at NC State, he threw for 3,054 yards and 25 touchdowns, led NC State to an 8-4 season. Again, he did not redshirt. He was a spring enrollee and played that fall. 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. Davis Webb and Baker Mayfield between them, 2,915 yards passing, 19 touchdowns. So they're probably going to outdo what Phillip Rivers did as a second semester freshman at NC State. Now, I'm not comparing them to Phillip Rivers and saying, well, this guy is going to be the number 4 overall draft pick 4 years down the road. But, yeah, I think with between what they have in terms of physical ability and Kliff Kingsbury's quarterback coaching, I think you can believe in these guys.
Next 2 questions are pretty fantastic, Don, and some very observant fans. First one by Kelly Utterback. What are you seeing the biggest differences between Tubbs and Kingsbury in relation to the overall atmosphere of the team?
Kliff Kingsbury has a ton of energy. I mean, really, walks fast, bouncing his step when he's around the football, at least when he's doing football things. He's really energetic, and I think it rubs off on his team. I think it also helps Kliff that whenever he tells you something, when you're a Texas Tech player, he was playing in the NFL 6 years ago.
Right.
So he has credibility with them. He played Texas Tech football at a high level, so he has credibility with them, and I think that's I think he allows them to relax and be positive. And there's been a lot made this year about how Kliff doesn't really berate guys. That he tells them, hey, you'll get it right next time, and I think that allows guys to really relax and perform their best. A lot was said the last 2 or 3 years about some of Tommy Tuberville's comments. Were very negative about can't prepare because it's too windy out here today.
Didn't get much better today.
Get much better today. Boy, we played awful on Saturday. Got too many injuries. And maybe that did have a trickle-down effect to where
he had a lot of Eeyore the donkey in him.
Yeah.
He really did. And kids kind of pick up on that, and that can really go south on you in a hurry if the kids don't think that you believe in them.
Yeah. So I think in the back of their minds, maybe not even consciously, they probably got down a little bit. And I think with Kliff, it's the total opposite because he's all about positive. He's all about positive, picking guys up and setting that tone in terms of energy that players feed off of.
Continuing on, Ryan Cowan with a good point here, Don. This is something we discussed heavily after the game on the way back from West Virginia. Don, in the past, most Tech teams would have quit down by 2 scores away from home. What is the difference in this team?
Well, I think it goes back a little bit to what we just said. And I do think Ryan's painting with a broad brush there. When I look at Kerry Hyder and Eric Ward and Terrence Bullitt and go on, a whole bunch of seniors and upperclassmen on this team. I don't think those guys quit, but I do think there was, in years past, I think they're much more competitors than that. But I do think there was a sort of a, kind of a negative vibe around the team at times the last couple of years. And again, with Kliff, it's all about positive, all about energy, and all about being excited to be here. And I think I think that's why they were able to come back the way they did on Saturday. Players said after the game said that they never panicked. Terrence Bullitt said the defense never panicked. Said they were always like, let's do that, let's go do this. We can get it done, and keep plugging away.
And I think key thing for me over the last couple of years with Tech, you had some kids in key positions maybe not focused the way they should have been and maybe got too down on themselves, and that will kill you when you have a key position like that. And this year you just see the kids are a lot more mellow and a lot more focused on their overall goals as opposed to being upset over one single thing that happened during the course of a season. Don, Kumar's got a good one for you here. Texas Tech is currently ranked below 2 one-loss teams. Of course, this is in the BCS. Do you think that will change if Tech beats the Sooners in Norman?
2 one-loss teams that you refer to are Stanford and Clemson, both of them 6-1.
Right.
I don't think that Tech would jump them if Tech wins in Norman. Clemson, I think you have a little bit of a shot maybe to overtake Clemson. I don't think you really have a chance to catch Stanford unless Stanford loses this week. Stanford has Oregon State. Right. I mean, you look at the schedules. Okay, Texas Tech is 7-0 with its victories being against 6 teams with losing records, and Texas State, which is 4-3. Stanford 6-1 with wins against 3 ranked teams, and all the teams they have beaten are either 500 or better, except for 1, and they have Oregon State, number 25, on the road on Saturday, so they have a chance to get to beat the 4th-ranked team that they've beaten this season. Clemson's not as good a team. I think that loss to
that hurt.
The way they got pounded by Florida State last week is fresh in voters' minds. But Clemson, all the teams that they've beaten are 500 or better this year as well. They have the win over Georgia, which doesn't look as good now as it did at the time that it happened. But and they have Maryland this week. So if all 3 teams win, I don't think you can move up. I don't think you're going to pass Stanford. And generally, the way voters are in the Associated Press poll is if a team wins, they don't drop them. So you probably need Stanford. You need Stanford to lose, and you probably would need Clemson to lose to Maryland as well. I think even if you did beat Oklahoma. Which
is entirely possible with the anarchy that existed last week in the top 10 in both polls.
Entirely possible, yes.
Don Jeremy, a little superstitious question here for you. A.J. Don Williams, dare I go there? Will an undefeated Texas Tech team beat out another 1- or 2-loss team for the ultimate prize? Of course, referring to the slot in the BCS National Championship game.
That would so we're talking about Texas Tech being 12-0, running the table.
Right.
Even then, I think it would be difficult for Texas Tech to get in because again, so right now Texas Tech's best victory is over TCU. And what the Red Raiders have coming up is Oklahoma, which is number, I believe, 12 in the BCS. I didn't look at that, but they're number 17 in the AP poll. Probably the best team that Tech has left is Baylor, and I still think, a one-loss team out of the SEC, maybe a one-loss Stanford team if they get to 11-1.
The loser of the SEC championship game if it comes down to Missouri and Alabama.
Did that too, yeah.
I mean,
you got Ohio State.
Teams are going to have to lose.
Who's going to beat Ohio State?
And plus, I think we are biting off a whole bunch of meat right now that maybe is not worth being chewed because Texas Tech's got a hell of a schedule left. That's a very tough task to say that they're going to run through that and be undefeated.
Yeah, but there's not, and that's the thing, they do. But even if they did, there's not a top 5 team. There's not a.
They need
Baylor is the best team there.
They need more stuff to happen. More things are going to have to happen for Tech to be in that discussion. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here, Don. But worth talking about, and at least at this point in the season, Tech fans have that to talk about. That's kind of a nice luxury they haven't had since the 2008 season. Closing out here, Don, Jesse Peters has one for you. Jakeem Grant playing this week. Hard to get any news over in Arkansas.
Kliff Kingsbury, from his tone, he sounds pretty emphatic that Jakeem will play this week. He said on Saturday after the game, he said Jakeem will be back next week, meaning this week. So I'm assuming then if he doesn't have any setbacks with that head injury that he has, that they will get him back out there. But you never know with something like that with the way he looked after he went down.
You're not going to go, you're going to err on the side of caution with a head injury because there's just too much around that.
Yeah, but Kliff has said a couple of times that Jakeem should be back this week, which will definitely help out because at one point last week you had no Jakeem Grant, no Carlos Thompson, and then Sadale Foster got hurt his hip. So you had at that H inside receiver spot, it was Jordan Davis taking every snap in the second half.
Right.
And the next guy behind him was Brent Mitchum, another former walk-on.
Grant is going to be needed at Oklahoma. It'd be really nice to have him.
Yeah.
What is that? What's that? What is it vibrating? Is that dude, I told you to turn your phone off during this show.
We've got one more Don versus Twitter question.
Okay, hold on. That's excusable. This is breaking news right here. We're going to let it on right here. This is how much we want your questions on Don versus Twitter. Albert Flores with one for you, Don. With Webb playing well and Mayfield most likely healthy, are Brewers' chances of ever playing meaningful downs all but gone? Good question there by Albert Flores.
The answer, no, I don't think so. I think here's the thing. The reality is at some point, Michael Brewer is going to be 100% healthy. And when that time comes, with his track record from high school and with what he had done in his first couple of years at Texas Tech on campus, he's a viable option for this team. And it may not happen the rest of this season, but come spring practice, I think you're going to have a heck of a quarterback battle.
You betcha.
And Michael Brewer's going to be right in there again.
A lot of good football teams left on Tech's schedule. There could be opportunities. Not saying there's going to be, but there's a chance you could see a need to go to a veteran quarterback if some things slide south over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, there's a chance. Now, and here's the thing, and I believe someone else asked, and I might not have gotten it on the sheet, do the Red Raiders stay with Davis Webb, or will he start every game the rest of the season? And I forgot to put it on our sheet. We had a Twitter question by a person who asked, will Davis Webb play, will he be the starting quarterback the rest of the season?
Right.
I think the answer, I will give the same answer to that I gave after 2 weeks of seeing Baker Mayfield. I think he will continue to be your starter as long as he keeps playing the way he's been playing. Baker Mayfield played great for 2 games, and then TCU and Texas State, he took a step back. I think with Davis Webb, if he continues to play the way that he's playing, I think you stay with Odd Hand, and he will start as long as he's continuing to to throw for 400 yards.
Nothing against Michael Brewer or Baker Mayfield. It's not that they are bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just the gains that Davis Webb makes week to week are huge, Don. He just gets better with every opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he's been very impressive. I mean, the guy who threw it up for grabs down the middle 3 or 4 times in that first month of the season, you're not seeing that guy now. I mean, most of his passes are very good judgment, and you see now that that if he doesn't have a receiver open, he rolls out and he throws the ball away.
Other than Kliff telling him, don't ever do that. He gave him the old Willie Mays Hayes speech on the goal line fumble. Don't ever do that again. And it wasn't that it was a bad decision. It's just that he came in so open, his body fully tall, and he's lucky he didn't get hit harder there and get hurt.
Yeah, and I didn't have a problem with that because here's the thing. Davis Webb saw the middle wide open.
And it was a huge gap.
Yeah, he said, I can go get 13 yards. And the competitor in him, when you get to the 10, to the 5, you want to stick it in there and get the touchdown. And so, he got hit hard. He lost a fumble. That's unfortunate. He'll learn from it. But I think he's made bigger mistakes than that in that instance.
And it worked out for Texas Tech in that scenario. It looked like a momentum swing, but he responded well and made up tenfold for the thing that he did on the goal line. Mm-hmm. Don, another fantastic group of Twitter questions this week. We want to thank all of you for sending those questions in. Of course, keep them coming after the game on Saturday in Norman, and we'll get after them next week. And in terms of that game in Norman, Dom, we got a lot more good stuff coming up this week. Of course, the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show, our topics discussion with Krista Pirtle, and we'll make that lovely journey up the road to Norman, Oklahoma, and have full coverage of Texas Tech and Oklahoma on Saturday. Until that time, that is Don Williams. I am Zach Long. This has been Don versus Twitter on RedRaiders.com.